Hi everyone, this is the tutorial for Molly's song. My name is Billy from Piano and Pies. Let's get stuck straight in. So to play this song, the easiest, we need a capo on the 2nd fret. If you're in need of a capo, there is a link to one in the description below, so feel free to check that out. However, we're going to start off with the beginning of the song, which has single notes played in a fingerstyle pattern, and then I'm going to talk about the chords and whatnot afterwards. So if you're not interested in playing that part, then yeah, move ahead in the video for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get to the chords where you can start strumming along. However, let's delve in with that introduction. So everything's going to be in reference to the capo, and what we're going to do is shape an E minor shape, but with a finger on fret 3 of the B string. So we've got a 2 on the A string, 2 on the D, and 3 on the B string. Now you may not need all of those fingers, but it's just good practice to get into, and more than likely you'll be used to that shape anyway. And what happens is, when we have that shape, we'll play the low E string, then we play the D string, which is that number 2 there. So we'll play E, D, E, G string, which is a 0, then back to the E, back to the D, back to the E, and then that 3 on the B string. So you can see we're always going back to the low E string on this. You'll see that's a very, very common thing that's used in this introduction. So slowly, the first part of the song we have. So I'm always using my thumb on that low note, and then I'm spreading out these fingers for the D, G, and B strings. I then go to play that bar again, but only the first 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Before I put a finger on fret 3 of the A string and play the A, D, A, G strings. So a few open strings with the 3 on the A string. So the second bar is. To put the first 2 bars together, we now get. We then take that finger and move it up a string. We're also going to get a finger on 3 of the B string. Now there's loads of ways you can phrase this. You could use those fingers, you could use those fingers. For me, I just find those 2 the easiest. And what we'll do is play 3 on the E string, the open D string, 3 on the E, open G string, 3 on the E again, open D string, 3 on the E, and then a 3 on the B string. And then the next bar, E, A string, E, G string, E, D string, E, G string. So just to put those 2 bars together, which are bars 3 and 4 in the song, we have this. So at that point, you're halfway through the introduction of the finger picking part. You could use a plectrum on this, there's nothing stopping you. However, I think it's far easier to use fingers. And I'm just going to demonstrate that first half in one go slowly so you can see how all of this fits together. So the second half starts off in the exact same way. We have this bar. And then we play the first part again. So up to now, everything's the same. But then, as you can see with the tablature on the screen, we have 2, 3. And there's a little H on the tab. That's what we call a hammer-on. What's going to happen is, we play the number 2, and then we play the 3 by hammering on that finger. It's a really subtle technique that they do, well worth putting it in. You could go, but in my opinion, sounds way better. And then we have D string, G string open. So I'll just play the first 2 bars of the latter part of the introduction, so you can see how all that fits together. We then play the bar before, where we have that shape. But at that point, what we do is we go to this shape here. It's a D major chord down here, but your thumb is going to try and creep over to get to this number 2. Now there is a way around it, I'll show you that in a moment, if you find this to be a pain, because that thumb can be a bit of a challenge, especially if you're an early beginner. But what happens on the track is they play the low E string with your thumb, 0 on the D, 2 on the E again, 2 on the G, 2 on the E again, and then we've got this kind of shape of, and that's where I use the fingers to strum. Down, up, down. So altogether that bar is. Now the alternate version, if you can't manage that, use that shape that we used earlier up here on the 3s with the number 2s. And you could just fill out the bar with that pattern before you go into the strumming part, which is the next part of the song. So just to slowly play through that full introduction, this is what it sounds like at a nice steady pace so you can follow all my hand movements. So that has got you through the introduction, and it's worth mentioning that if you want the tablature for the introduction, as well as the chords and lyrics wrote out for the full song, then head on over to Patreon. There is a link in the description where you get everything wrote out professionally for the price of a coffee. You can access to not only this song, but well over 400 other songs of the latest releases over the past few years. So yeah, feel free to check that out. We now get to the first verse, and this is where I'm going to grab a plectrum. This is where the vocal part comes in, and we're going to start strumming some chords. And what we have is an E minor chord, which is an open E string, 2 on the A and D strings, and then open strings on the bottom few. We then have a C major chord, which is a 3 on the A string, 2 on the D, an open G, 1 on the B, and an open E string. We also have a G major chord in the verse, which is a 3 on the E string, 2 on the A, 0, 0, 0, and a 3 on the high E. And the last chord that we need is technically a D major with an F sharp in the bass, which is your thumb. If you're not comfortable with that thumb, just get rid of it and play a regular D major, which is 0 on the D string, 2 on the G, 3 on the B, 2 on the high E. So let's talk about strumming and how long we play those chords for. And we're going for a palm muted type of sound in the verse. And all I mean by that is taking this part of your hand, resting it lightly on the strings on this side. So we get that type of sound. And what we do is we play the E minor. So for every chord I'm playing down, down, up, down, up. However, the E minor plays that pattern once, and then it shares a time round with C. So I'm playing E minor once, and then E minor for half, and then C for half. And then 2 lots round on G. So that's the first part round the first verse. I'll just do that without talking over the top of it. The second time round does the exact same thing again, but it only plays G once, and then it'll go to D once, like this. So if you were to play all of those chords in one go, so E minor to C, G, E minor to C, G, D, then you've got 1 time round the first verse. And looking over to my notes, you play that through twice for the first verse. Now looking over to my notes, basically the rest of the song is just the same thing over and over and over. The last part of the song, the outro, goes back to the finger picking part that we've already looked at, so the intro and the outro are exactly the same. The only part I do want to talk about, which is slightly different, is the chorus. And the chorus is a little bit louder, like most choruses are, and instead of palm muting, we can play the same rhythm with the same chords, but strumming a little bit louder without palm muting, like this. So yeah, all I'm doing is taking the same strumming pattern, I'm just not palm muting, I'm playing a little bit louder, like a lot of choruses are, so I'm a bit heavier handed with my plectrum, and that's what you can do in the chorus to make it sound a little bit different, to provide a bit of variety to your playing and adding in a nice bit of texture. But there we go, that's basically everything you need to get through this song. So if you are interested in getting the tabs for the introduction, as well as the chord chart, as well as the chords and the lyrics matched up, so 3 different things you can get for this song, head on over to Patreon, links are in the description, and the people on the screen, who are my active patrons, will get that content straight away, because they are supporting me every month, and I really, really appreciate it. So thanks to them for their support, thanks to you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.